How's it going, everyone? I hope you're having a great day. If I sound a little weird during this video or make any weird noises like that, it just means I'm sick. I can talk, though, and it's been a couple days since I posted. So today we have a story of a spoiled kid who flexes his fake money, and then we also have another really crazy story in the second half of the video, so stick around. We're going to call the subscriber who submitted the story Jonathan. So anyways, there's this kid in Jonathan's class who was not really known as, like, the typical spoiled rich kid. Normally when I start these videos, I'm like, oh, yeah, there's this kid. He was just known as the spoiled rich kid. He was just known as the kid who got everything. No, that's not the case this time. This time, the kid just wasn't, he was just a normal kid. I mean, he was, every kid has their weird tendencies. This happened when Jonathan was in 6th grade, so look, every 6th grader is a bit of a weirdo, man. I mean, that's just kind of how things are. And one day, everything seems to change because they're sitting at lunch and, Jonathan is with his friends and we're going to call the spoiled kid. We're just going to call him spoiled kid. I tend to do that so I don't mix up the names. So spoiled kid comes and sits down at the table and Jonathan is friendly with spoiled kid. Not really friends, but he's friendly. There's people in your class that you're chill with and you'll have some good conversations, maybe even have some good laughs with, but you're just not like boys like that. Anyways, he sits down. He's like, guys, I need to tell you something. And Jonathan was like, and everyone else at the table kind of looks over and, kind of to be like, yeah, what's up? He's like, my dad just became CEO of a really huge company. And remember, this was 6th grade, so half the kids didn't even know what a CEO was. And, the other half were just that they were happy enough with that. Maybe, people would be like, of what company? But they just heard, oh, CEO, that's very impressive. Like, oh my God, this must be real. And they were all like, wow. Or the kids who understood were like, wow. Wow, that's so crazy. Because when they hear CEO, they think Wolf of Wall Street, yacht, mega jet. I don't know. You can be CEO right now. Let's say you are CEO of Connor's company. We make nothing and do nothing, but I'm the CEO. You can say you're CEO of anything. But sure enough, the spoiled kid, or now the spoiled kid, was like, oh yeah, look, I'm the CEO of everything, man. Or my dad's the CEO. Look, guys, I just want to let you know so that my new lifestyle will not make you think anything poorly or less of me. I thought it was my civic duty to let you know. Basically, the spoiled kid was coming in and saying that his new lifestyle, right, whatever that even was supposed to mean, he just wanted to tell them. He wanted to very politely give them a heads up that he was going to be rich AF and they couldn't do anything about it, Just a good kid, man. He's such a good kid. And the thing is, Jonathan is, he's kind of a smart guy and he started to catch on. Wait a minute. Why do we need to know? My dad, works a job. He probably got a promotion at some point, I guess. I didn't tell everyone. Why does everyone need to know about, oh, your dad got a promotion? I just don't understand that. But most of the other kids were just like, oh my God, you're so crazy, dude. They didn't really care, and they were just kind of saying stuff. And, sure enough, he's at this point, the spoiled kid is more or less just basking in the glory of what is soon to be found out as a fake position. I'm sure the spoiled kid's dad, he did what he needed to do for the family, but spoiler, the spoiled kid was lying, and you'll figure out how crazy it is in a second of his lie. His lie is the most ridiculous thing ever. Sure enough, the spoiled kid is like, yeah, guys, I just want to make sure that we're still friends when I'm in my yacht. And you know what? If you guys are nice enough to me, I'll invite you on my yacht someday. And every kid was like, oh my God, did you guys just hear? He's going to invite us on his yacht. And they're all like, oh my God, spoiled kid, I love your shoes today. And another kid's like, no, dude, I love them more. And then those two kids start getting in a fight I love his shoes more. No, I think they're more stylish. No, I think they're more quirky. No, I think... You kind of see where it's getting there. So everyone was being extremely nice to him. I was going to say a different expression that maybe is not great for the family-friendly audience I'm trying to get here. But everyone was being very nice to him, and they were being Okay, I can't think of I can't think of another expression. I'm just saying everyone was sucking this guy off. It's crazy. And sure sure enough, I'm gonna get some kid being like, what does that mean? And yeah, so sure enough, everyone was just like, oh my God, you're the greatest man. Because look, the spoiled kid was just basically said, hey, if you're nice to me, and I'm sure his plan was to be like, if you do my homework, if you like, I don't know, if you carry my backpack to school, kind of stuff like that. If you do all that, I'll let you on my super yacht and my mega jet and my intergalactic space station that I definitely have. Like, I'll let you on those things. But the thing was, right, the spoiled kid was not the brightest guy ever because he basically played himself. DJ Khaled, you played yourself type moment. Because the next day he came in, and the spoiled kid had a very interesting conception of money. He thought that, if you're a rich person, that you would bring a stack of like $100 bills and literally just like flex that. Like you wouldn't look, even a lot of like rich people, they don't have like that fancy stuff, right? They're at a point where they realize that, money is more, excess money is more about freedom than it is, buying material items, and that those will have extremely quick diminishing returns, and you will definitely not find internal peace or happiness, you won't find it in the backseat of a Bugatti or the bottom of a glass. You'll find it in yourself. But anyways, right, even more shallow than that, the spoiled kid believes that, to prove that he is actually a rich man, he needs to bring in, he needs to have a whole handful of cash. So he comes in one day into lunch, he's sitting down, and Jonathan sits down next to him, and he's like, yo, Jonathan, look at this. And he opens up his backpack, and you know how people like fan out their money on Instagram posts? That's always funny to me. It's like $5 bills. I'm like, bro, you really just took out $45 out of your checking account. Like, that's not flexing, bro. Like, first of all, flexing's kind of lame, but damn, that's really not anything. And just to clarify, I'm not saying $45 isn't a lot of money. I mean, that is actually a lot of money. That's more than most people spend in a day. But I'm saying if it's like you're trying to prove someone, look, I can buy a yacht with this, you need a little bit more to buy a yacht is what I'm trying to say. And sure enough, he comes down and he the spoiled kid puts all of his he fans out all of his fake money, which we'll figure out in a second, and spreads it all around the table. And he says, this is what my dad made on the first day, only one day, and he made all this money. A lot of kids were like, whoa, dude, are you serious, man? That's freaking crazy, bro. Your dad's insane. And Jonathan's looking at this money, and he's like, this is really sus, bro. Like, something is up with this. Something is wrong. Something is weird with this. And he looks at the money. Jonathan picks up on the dollar bills. And the spoiled kid's like, dude, you can't take the money. I know my dad makes so much of it now, but you can't take it. Jonathan's like, I'm not taking it. I'm just looking at it. And the spoiled kid didn't think anything of it. He just went on to continue flexing to everyone and telling them, ooh, if you listen to me, I don't know, you will be able to be on my jet, my private jet. It's real. I'm not lying. I'm telling you, please believe me. And so Jonathan's looking at this $100 bill. It's Monopoly money. Kid brings in Monopoly money. Yeah, I don't know if you guys have ever played Monopoly before. It's not a fun board game. Basically, if you ever want to hate your family members and go to bed mad, play Monopoly. It's not always the most fun game. But there's fake money in that game, and basically the spoiled kid went home, grabbed a bunch of fake Monopoly money, brought into school and pretended that, tried to flex on people. And the thing was, afterwards, Jonathan's like, hey man, this money isn't real. And then all the kids are like, what? He's like, look, there's the Monopoly man on it. And it says copyright 1985 Monopoly or whatever, right? And that's when all the other kids look at it and they're like, wait a minute. The thing was, if the spoiled kid never brought in the fake money, kids would have probably believed that his dad was a quadrillionaire for probably a little bit longer. And he probably would have gotten away with them doing his homework, probably could have gotten away with them carrying his backpack. What I'm trying to say is the spoiled kid had a good thing going, and he had to ruin it. The second story is actually a really crazy one. And this one is of a kid getting in a fight with his teacher. I had to say it a little weird because sometimes YouTube gets big mad when people say stuff. So I'm going to have to like word around it a little bit, but this is a very entertaining story, so I suggest you stick around through it. Real quick, comment spoiled if you made it this far into the video. I like to see how many people made it this far. Also, the best way to support the channel, if you don't already know, is to just go ahead and continue watching these videos. Literally just sitting down, watching like an hour or 2 hours worth of my videos. It boosts the channel so much. And I've been gone for the last 4 days because I've been sick. I'm still a little sick, but I'm back at it because I have to be back at it. You already know. But the channel's been doing extremely well. You know why? Because you guys have continued to watch the videos. And since you guys have continued to watch the videos, YouTube sees, oh, you guys like what I'm putting out. And they promote it to new people. We got like 5,000 subscribers in the last 4 days, and I have not even posted. So that's because of you, and I want to remind you that. Finally, if you want to submit stories, Twitter or Instagram DMs in my description. Listen to this on Spotify. We're on Spotify. Rate us 5 stars, or us. Me, sorry. I always hear people saying rate us 5 stars. Rate me 5 stars. I really appreciate it. With that being said, let's get to the second story. So we're going to call the subscriber who submitted the story Reed. First guy was Jonathan, so I'm like, oh, Jonathan Reed is a story, I think. So anyways, Reed, there's a kid in class, and we're just gonna call him Thin Ice Kid, because this kid was on thin ice. And so basically, right, Thin Ice Kid had gotten in a lot of fights with people before. I'm saying it weird so YouTube doesn't get mad. People got in a lot of altercations, a lot of rustles, a lot of stuff that just wasn't really good, and he was very physical with his emotions. He didn't know how to express them properly, right? You know what I mean? And so he gotten a lot of strikes against him. He's been in ISS a lot, in school suspension, a lot of stuff like that. And because of that, he was on very thin ice. And that's why we're calling him Thin Ice Kid. Anyways, Reed was in class with Thin Ice Kid. And he was in a engineering class. And in this engineering class, Reed was there one morning, and he was sitting there. It was, early in the morning. He was tired. Had his cup of coffee, could barely, open his eyes. He, he went to bed late that night before. You already know how it is. So he's just sitting there, listening to his teacher talk about, calc, I don't know, area under the curve of this is using, Newton's integral of differential, the fundamental theorem of calculus, all that kind of jazz. I'm in Calc 2 right now, so I'm making my way through it. But anyways, he's sitting there, and he hears banging on the door. So what happens is the teacher, after class period begins, he locks the door. So if you want to leave the classroom, he gives you a key to get back in, and just to make sure that he can see who's actually, who's leaving. He wants to, monitor the flow of who's coming in and who's coming out. He wants to kind of, keep class attendance like that. I don't really know. He just does it. That's just how it was. So there's the Thin Ice Kid. Normally wasn't that late to class. He wasn't a bad student per se, but what he was he just always got into fights and stuff like that. And so sure enough, the Thin Ice Kid forgot his backpack in his locker. So he's like, ah, shoot, right? He got there basically in class, and he ran back to get his backpack, and so he ran back to class, but the door was closed. So he knocked on the door, and the professor wasn't hearing it. But, who was hearing it? Reed was hearing it. So Reed looks over, and he hears knocking on the door. And he's just like, oh, okay, whatever, right? But the knocking stops for a second, and he's like, okay. And that's when Reed hears even louder knocking, like a metal object slamming against the door. So what happened was, the Thin Ice Kid kind of assumed that, that the teacher wasn't hearing him knock with the normal thing. So we went to another classroom, and he grabbed a hole puncher. Those things you put paper in and it punches 3 holes. He grabbed one of those and starts slamming that against the door, which is not the most genius thing ever, but okay, whatever. The teacher, who's in the middle of a lecture, is kind of annoyed, and he goes over and he opens up the door, he walks over to the door and he opens it up. However, the Thin Ice Kid is very heavily beating the hole puncher against the door. And the teacher goes up right to the door to open it. So when the teacher opens the door, the Thin Ice Kid is in the middle of swinging. So it looks as if the Thin Ice Kid is about to beat the teacher with this with this hole puncher. The teacher sees this and immediately gets into a fight with this kid. I'm saying it like with a weird Boston accent. I'm trying to trick the AI here, but he basically gets in a fight with this kid, man. So basically, right, the teacher assumed that this kid was like mad at him or just going crazy or whatever. So when he opened the door and he saw the kid, it looked like he was going to swing on him with with this like hole puncher. The teacher immediately basically defends himself because he assumed he was being attacked and basically did a counter. This kid, who is prone to, fighting with people, immediately just started to fight back again. Oh, shoot. Fight back against the teacher. I'm just going to say it. Fight back against the teacher. And they got into this tussle. A teacher versus student tussle is very rare. I rarely get any DMs about them. And just in general, it's pretty rare, but this was a full-out brawl. Normally, the teacher tries to de-escalate the situation, but this teacher felt like he was, defending his life or whatever. So at this point, all the kids in the engineering class are just looking on. And the other thing is, the kids in the other classes, the biology class, the chemistry class across the hall, they all, leave their class to go walk out and watch. And all of a sudden, this ring of kids around the two starts to form. So all these kids are watching these two fight it out. Eventually, security comes in, some other kids come in, and they break the two of them up. It is one of the most ridiculous situations ever, right? And kids in the engineering class were actually giving a presentation, and this all happened midway through one person's presentation. So the next day, let's not jump there yet. So this kid, the thin ice kid, was already on really thin ice, so this was it for him. He was expelled. He wasn't allowed back in the school after this point. But the teacher, you might assume, oh, well then, the teacher's probably expelled or asked, let go or asked to not come back, right? The next day, Reed, who's in the engineering class, is almost certain that he's never going to see his teacher again. He gets in there, and his teacher got there 10 minutes early and was just sitting down, just in his desk. But the one thing that changed was the teacher was in the worst mood ever, which I can't really blame him, man. He just got in a fight with a student. I really can't blame the guy. And he said to the kid that was in the middle of his presentation, hey, I'm going to give you the opportunity to do your presentation again since you're interrupted. And if I was that kid, I would definitely take it because I don't want my grade to be half of my presentation, half of a student-teacher, MME or MME. WWE fight or something like that. So yeah, the kid took it. His presentation was fine. And that teacher never had any repercussions that any of the kids knew. Maybe he had really stern meetings or something, but the teacher was not in trouble. It was just the kid. This is a very interesting case.